MusicRadio77.com.
Situation in Manhattan, George. The traffic is very heavy going cross town in many of the major intersections. So if you can, stay where you are. And once again, we remind you that the police commissioner has ordered, not advised, but ordered all police officers to report, if not to their precincts, to their nearest precincts. The subways had been running for a while under auxiliary power since they were not directly connected to Con Ed, but now we understand that many of the subways are stopping at the nearest stations where there are volunteers and subway personnel trying to help the people out and up onto the streets. So that's about it, George. Once again, we want to advise people to stay where they are and please not try to drive around because there is still a lot of traffic.
All right, and that's the word from Steve O'Brien as he came in from the Queens tonight. You want to give him a shot? All right, there's several things that we've noted. First of all, I should bring you up to date. On WABC, it is now, we'll keep you posted as to what the accurate time is, and we quickly corrected it, 10:49:30. If you have one that you want to set your watch, it's 10:49:30 from Wolf. All right, weatherman says that it will clear up after the shower passes by, become less humid. Then tomorrow there should be sunshine, hopefully within about 7 hours. Sunshine, can you imagine Harry Harrison waking up in the morning saying, Mom, got another 4 hours of sleep time coming? Several New Yorkers in the area right here are directing traffic in Midtown Manhattan. I guess it was their lifelong fantasy. It has now come true as they're directing traffic 54th and 6th. It's most interesting to see people keep the traffic flowing. We remind you, if you're directing traffic, make sure you've got a good, strong flashlight with you. It's a very generous and kind thing to try to do. Police will probably be replacing you as quickly as is possible. If you're wondering when was the last time this was happening, it was November the 9th, 1965. That was when we had the last blackout. November the 9th, 1965 was the day of the great blackout. We understand that some store window models have been stolen. That's obviously for those who were out on the street and they couldn't find a girl. I don't know why they would steal store models. I have no idea if Ron Lundy was last seen going down 54th with a model. But this is true, and we would say this. The looting, the police are being most patient and kind. But that's why Commissioner Cott has urged all off-duty policemen to please report back as quickly as possible. Now, we have just contacted Con Ed. Needless to say, they're really harassed tonight and do not have time to really talk with us. They say, first of all, yes, all 5 boroughs, yes, Westchester. However, there are reports of scattered power coming back on, like in Brooklyn. There is reports of some power coming back on, only briefly, though, in various places like Brooklyn, and to no extent, so do not be misled. Con Ed says that this power outage is going to last for at least several hours. It started at exactly 9:29:30. That was the time of the complete blackout here in Midtown Manhattan. Over 7 million people are without power. And one great thing about the blackout is it equals us all. There ain't none of us different. We will all suffer, we will all sweat, and all of our air and extra dry will fail tonight, I guarantee you, as the air conditioning does not come back on. Now, weather-wise, the weatherman says we will have clearing weather tonight after the shower passes, sunny for tomorrow. As we've mentioned to you, all of the WABC News people have gone to their various posts. We have the newsroom manned by quite a few of the people. Gus Engelman is here, Steve O'Brien, Chuck Leonard, and let me switch now to the WABC newsroom for updates from Bob Capers.
Okay, and as you did indicate, George, it's now estimated that some 7 million New Yorkers are without electric power as of this hour. The borough-wide blackout continues. Con Edison tells us in bits and pieces and snatches that this blackout may have started earlier tonight up in Westchester County, which got hit by a severe lightning storm, which damaged a major feeder cable in that county, and attempts to arrest the problem failed, and we now have the citywide blackout inclusive of at least Westchester County. Conrail reports that it is now using its diesel engines to get people out of the subways where they obviously got stuck when the power failure occurred back about 9:30 or so. Shea Stadium had a pretty good crowd out there tonight watching the Mets and the Chicago Cubs. The lights went out and the crowd was evacuated quickly and calmly. I sure would like to know the score between the Mets and Cubs when the lights did go out. Most of the city's state-sponsored cooperatives have their own powerhouses, so it's possible that places like Co-op City in the Bronx and even Rochdale Village out in Jamaica, Queens, where I live, should have some kind of power. It's important to remind our listeners to turn off all electric switches to air conditioners and lights so that when Con Ed does correct the power problem, we don't get a sudden surge and a resultant blackout to follow up the one that we're now right into. The Long Island Railroad tells us some 12 to 14 trains are stuck mostly in the Jamaica-Queens area. Buses are being dispatched to those stations to transport passengers to their ultimate destination or as close to them as possible. And don't expect the Long Island Railroad or the City Transit Authority to be rolling per normal come tomorrow morning in light of tonight's activity. Mayor Beam has issued a state of emergency throughout the city some hour and a half or so before the blackout first began, or shortly after the blackout began. That would be about an hour and a half ago. And if an ambulance is requested for in any emergency situation, the best bet is to call 911, the police department emergency number, 911 for emergency ambulance service. No problems within municipal hospitals to report. They, like WABC, are working under emergency power, and an estimated 14,000 street lights are out right now throughout the city. This final note, the 3rd platoon of the police department has been held over indefinitely, and Police Commissioner Codd has ordered all off-duty officers to report to their nearest precinct immediately. They probably should have done so by now. Mayor Beam has also ordered all city emergency officials to report to City Hall immediately, where an emergency control center is now in progress. George?
All right, Bob, I should mention that if you hear only a few voices, I should tell you that some of the people who have, first of all, as you've heard people like Tom Romano and whatnot at various listening posts where we'll be keeping you abreast of what's happening there. Part of the problem is that all of the telephone lines into WABC, and I would imagine virtually everywhere in the city, that they do not light up. And you see, we don't operate on ringing telephones. We want to keep it quiet. Therefore, all the lights that we normally rely on, you cannot see any of the lights, so we have no idea when people are calling and when not. So I say that for the benefit of all of you who are reporters reporting into WABC. If we do not answer, or if we answer and hang up, understand that the lights are not working. Therefore, we do not know that you're on the phone. It's now 10:54 on WABC. We are in the midst of a blackout in New York City. It has affected all 5 boroughs. Some 7 million people are without power. The blackout officially occurred at 9:29:30. Con Edison may have a different time, but that is the exact time that WABC first went off the air at 9:29:30. Among the first to respond in were Chuck Leonard telling us of the various things happening up around where he lives, and Steve O'Brien from Queens, and then we heard from the village where Gus Engelman reported that power went out in the village somewhere between 9 and 9:30. Obviously, Gus was otherwise involved and wasn't paying attention to his watch to find out what time the power went out. We are hearing in now from Tom Romano that things on the around 40th Street, the traffic is a little bit heavy, but there are people directing the traffic in the streets. Glenn Morgan, Sandy Sanderson manning the phones, the various people in the newsroom. You've heard from Gus Engelman. Bob Capers has been talking with people. Con Edison repeats that there are various power surges. That is, that in certain sections of the 5 boroughs, power will flicker a little bit as they are trying to restore the power. Staten Island was among the first to report to us they were without power. Con Ed says that this power blackout will last for several hours. We are advised of very minor looting. We would only urge you to please cool on. Such things as looting are almost heartbreaking at this time, because the most important thing is that people who are walking the streets or whatever, that they be safe and the traffic be moving slowly. We urge you not to use your vehicle at all costs. Avoid using your car. If you do run into an emergency that you cannot handle, that you feel is endangering life, you call 911. And if the line is busy, you simply have to hang up and keep redialing until you can get through. Use it only if it is indeed an emergency. That is the police emergency line, 911. We are advised that now over 7 million people without power. The weatherman says that once the shower passes through, the weather overnight will not be all that bad, as we expect a rather clear evening, a lot less humidity, sunshine for tomorrow. Low tonight 70, high tomorrow 90. It is still a very warm, muggy 84 degrees in Midtown Manhattan. Repeating the 5 boroughs without power. The power went out tonight. The power went out at 9:29:30. We have information coming in. Paul Ehrlich on the WABC Newsline with various sources around the city as he can find them. Gus Engelman has just walked into the WABC studios. He has been talking, we are advised, with the, let's see, this from the police spokesman, who advised us the traffic is very heavy in some sections, but above all, again, avoid using your vehicle as there is nothing they can do about it. We have Con Edison standing by. Gus Engelman just spoke moments ago. Jackie, this should come up on line 1, I believe. If we can switch to the WABC newsroom. Gus Engelman with Con Edison on the line, if we could. Rich?
What caused this? We had severe lightning and thunderstorms in Westchester County, and
and they knocked out Indian Point 3, which is one of the generating stations on the system. And at that time, we also lost a major north-south feeder into the system, which connects us to the north. And shortly thereafter, Gus, I give you these events in sequence. I don't have exact times for them. We lost Ravenswood 3, which is a big generator in the city in Queens. And we tried to save the system by going into a 5% voltage reduction. We went into an 8% voltage reduction, and we started to shed load in Westchester.
And most important, are you people able to determine right now when power will go back on?
No, we don't have a fix. It'll be several hours, I'm sure. And what we're asking people to do is to make sure that the appliances that were on when the problem happened are turned off, so that they're not now on the system when we go back, so that we don't have a big surge to deal with.
And when you say several hours, are you saying perhaps this could go into the early hours of the morning?
I'm saying that I can't really guess, Gus, as to what time we'll get the thing back. We've got every available man. I heard on the radio, and I just turned the car around. I was working late till about 8:30, and I was on the way home and turned the car around, didn't even bother to go home, and came back. So everybody who's on the system who can play a role in getting the city back is working right now.
Ed Livingston of Con Ed, and a tremendous report from Gus Engelman. It's reports like that. We will repeat that one for you from time to time. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, the city of New York, all 5 boroughs affected, a blackout. It also affects Westchester County. Westchester County, as you just heard from Ed Livingston, it was caused by a major lightning and thunderstorm which came through Westchester County. I will repeat that Con Ed has advised us that from time to time there will be minor surges of power. Already in Brooklyn, various flickering lights, various surges of power, and then it goes back off. If you are in Brooklyn, we would urge you, please, if you do have any power come back on, use a minimal amount of it only, so that the power can be spread out over the 5 boroughs of Manhattan as well as Westchester County. Steve O'Brien has been on the streets this evening. He's already reported on the trip in from Queens. And Steve, what further reports can you give us as far as traffic and whatnot around the city of Manhattan tonight?
Well, George, the traffic, as I did say before, coming in from Queens, especially across the bridge, and from what we understand now through the Midtown Tunnel, has just been horrendous. The traffic in both directions is very heavy. People trying to get into the